This guy is probably the coolest character in Duet Night Abyss yet. His name is Kudso, or maybe it's Kezhou. Honestly, I'm probably gonna mispronounce it the entire video. Kezhou is a master of weapons. He can use every single one at the same level of effectiveness, and he reminds me a little bit of Noctis from Final Fantasy 15, where he can just use all of the weapons and generate them out of thin air. Anyways, he's really fun, and real quick, I'm gonna show you how to play him, and then go over what sort of build you actually want to put on him. My name is Braxophone, you can call me Brax. This video is sponsored by Duet Night Abyss. Let's get into the video. So here we are with level 180 enemies. Now you'll see two bars at the bottom. He has a sword bar and a gun bar. These start at 50-50 each, and when you go into his ultimate, you fill up the gun bar. When you're out of his ultimate, you fill up the sword bar. The bar that you fill up actually increases the amount of damage he's able to do. So check this out. To get sword gauge, I'm gonna shoot them with the gun. Boom, I'm at 100. Now I'm gonna use his ultimate. It's gonna summon a field of swords, which honestly just looks super sick. But now, as you can see, he's generated a brand new weapon that he can attack with. You attack with the weapon, and you get gauge on the gun icon. It fills up really quick, so if you want to, you can immediately ult to get out of it and start shooting again. However, I failed to mention one very important part. When you're in his ultimate, if you press his skill, he gets a massive attack speed buff, and I'm just gonna let the attacks do the talking here. Oh, this is so stupid. Look at this. I can't even see what's happening. Yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And then you can end your ultimate, fill up your sword bar again, then go back into your ultimate right away, use your E skill, and boom, you're back at it again, and they're taking absurd amounts of damage. Fill up the gauge again, boom, we're at 100. So that's Kezhou. So Kezhou, even though he does have a lot of text in his kit, honestly, it's not that complicated to understand. Essentially, he works, as I mentioned, where he has two gauges where you want to fill one side to max, and then use that side, and then fill the other side, and then use that side, and just keep repeating that over and over. His passive is what goes over the two gauges, and as you can see, there will be a sanity cost reduction if you do the rotation correctly, and it'll increase your melee weapon damage dealt and your ranged weapon damage dealt based on their trigger probability. The cool thing about Kezhou is that when he uses his ultimate and gets to generate different weapons of all different kinds, like here he's using a sword, now he has a polearm, and now you have a different combo, and now you have a great sword, different combo, now he has a polearm again, and it just generates random weapons, right? The cool thing is that he actually inherits the stats of your weapon. So finally, we actually have a reason to use weapons in Duet Night Abyss and invest into them, especially beyond even just the first copy. Smelting them will get even more value. Now, in addition to that, his ultimate will also give him Phano swords, which are these swords you'll see right next to his body right now. These, after a certain amount of hits, will crash into enemies and do some bonus damage. These are based off of his trigger probability, so the amount of times you get your weapon trigger will affect not only how many swords you get, but also the damage increase you're getting from your gauge. Do this to finish it off, boom, blow up, and that's that. The damage from his Phano swords is damage over time based on his weapon trigger probability. And as you can see, there's all sorts of different multipliers here, with polearms doing more damage in his combo sequence, but honestly, it kind of just picks randomly, so it doesn't really matter. Now, one of the cool things about Kezhou is he actually gives you weapon crit chance in his skills passively. Most characters don't actually have crit buildable on their character. The closest you'll get is Consonance weapon, which, by the way, Kezhou does not have a Consonance weapon. But in his skills, you can actually get up to 50% more weapon crit chance, which will help him massively on the weapon front. And because he inherits the stats of different weapons, you can play a ton of different weapons with him, and you don't just have to pick the ones that everyone built at the start. You don't need to just pick the 60% attack one or the skill duration one. In fact, skill duration is kind of a bait, because using his skill only costs 5 sanity, and the attack speed boost lasts a pretty long time even with low skill duration. The game tells you to build skill duration on him, but honestly, I've only built what passively comes with the rest of my demon wedges. But for weapons, I would generally advise things that have either good attack speed or crit stats, because those do also get inherited, since they're a part of the normal stat distribution of the weapon. So you can use these dual blades that have a high crit damage. You can use his katana, which I think is personally one of his best weapons, since it does increase damage dealt based on combo level. And also this polearm that gives 25 attack speed is also pretty good. This one also has a damage bonus as well. All sorts of weapons will work for him, but I do highly recommend getting his ranged weapon, because it does give him a massive attack buff. Now, as far as the demon wedge build, I ended up going with mostly purples just to make it kind of relatable, but I do have the new Wings Inspo Hunt Down wedge. And the reason is because you guys are gonna absolutely want this. 100% more lumino damage when skill duration is above 150%. We have 151, so we are just above that for the whole bonus effect, the extra sanity, and the skill efficiency. The damage received down is also nice, because something that I didn't mention about his skills earlier is after you use his skill in his ultimate, he gets immune to hit stun while taking damage. So if you can reduce the damage he takes, you won't even notice notice when you're being hit by tons of guys or girls or just like filthoids, I guess. We don't discriminate here. Now, there's a ton of different wedges you could give him. You could give him skill intensity, you could give him skill duration, but honestly, I just went with all scorch. You can just stack attack on this guy super high because the skill duration, so long as you hit 151 for the bonus of wings inspo hunt down, the newer wedge, you're not gonna have any trouble with getting all of the bonus effects. And honestly, I think the buffs last long enough. You can just press skill again if you want to go longer than the 18 seconds that are allotted with the 151 skill duration. I did go with prismatic neon, and even though it does give skill duration, the reason for this is actually because it increases your crit chance. And of course, we want the lumino attack bonus. This one is actually a different scaling bonus. I don't know how many of you guys are aware of this, but lumino attack is a much better multiplier than regular attack or lumino damage. So you always want to take this. Also, you should probably run morale here. I was running this one for the skill duration, but I think it's bugged anyways because I put on eternity and the skill duration doesn't change at all. So morale it is. Now, since this is a weapon-based character, you do actually want to invest into your weapons for this guy, and I actually went all in on celerity to a +10. If you don't have it, celerity +5 also works. I honestly was just playing around with as high of attack speed as possible and kind of forgot to take it off before I did the showcase for this video. The higher attack speed you have, the more opportunities you have to actually trigger with the trigger probability wedge that you're going to want to run as well. Then you want crit chance, attack / attack, more crit chance, more crit damage, anything that's just going to add damage, range, and attack speed, because all of these stats are going to get inherited. And this would also be the time where if you haven't actually smelted any of your weapons to max copies, this is where it becomes way more worth it. If you go and smelt this to max, for example, you are getting double the crit damage bonus and double the damage increase. It does actually affect it quite a lot. Now, for teammates, it does feel like Fina and Fushu are kind of just the main two characters you bring with you all the time, because Fushu's sanity regen is just so absurd, and the bonuses she gives you as well are great. And because Psyche's been so strong all the time, Fina has just been someone that everyone's taking with them nowadays. But Fina also does benefit him. Even though he doesn't have a consonance weapon, since his ultimate does technically count as weapon damage, he can trigger Fina's abilities. And on top of that, if you happen to get all of Fina's abilities here, you can actually add a weapon damage bonus to Kezhou in addition to Fina's other buffs. And because Fina is a Lumino character, both Kezhou and Fina would also get another skill damage boost from Fushu. So overall, these two are just kind of like a wombo combo that's really crazy, but you can also use other characters that can boost Lumino damage or just damage in general. MC also does what Fina does to a degree, where you can actually increase the trigger probability for your Kezhou and also increase weapon damage. Another character that works exceptionally well with him is Lady Neefel, not only because she gives an attack boost to Lumino allies, which by the way is a huge buff, but also her grouping abilities can be really nice for Kezhou since he's a melee character, and if you want to hit multiple enemies at once, having them all in one place is really good. On top of that, her damage is just absurd, so dubs only. On the topic of Genimons, I decided to go with one that I know everyone can get, which is the Lumi Genimon. That will give you a little bit more Lumino attack, which is a great scaling stat, but also if you do have Luminelf, that is just going to be better. Now, I haven't actually activated any of his Introns yet because I wanted this to be more relatable, since at most you're probably only getting to Intron 3 until he moves out of theater. But I'm still gonna go over all of them because I do think they get really busted. So the first Intron is basically going to just increase the ability of his passive, sanity reduction, damage increase, but also it makes it so that you get more conversions. Now, this isn't really an issue, especially if you have attack speed. You're not going to really run into issues getting either bar full. So I personally don't think Intron 1 is like that crazy, but Intron 2 is a lot better. Basically, whenever you trigger a bonus effect, which should be non-stop, you're getting 90% more damage dealt for 5 seconds, and you're getting sanity back. So at this point, if you had a better support than Fushu, or if you wanted to just use someone like Lady Neefel, you could do that, use her grouping and all that, also her insane damage, and really take advantage of it. Now, Intron 3, 4, and 5 are just kind of whatever. The 4th Intron, I don't even know what this is, to be honest. I just feel like this is kind of ass, but 3 and 5 are just skill level ups. The big one is Intron level 6. Whenever triggering his bonus effect, Kezhou will get 1 stack that increases his pen stats by 3% for 12 seconds, up to 18 stacks. So you can get 54% penetration stats, which is what I would like him to do to me, which means his damage is just going to be significantly higher. It's not even going to be close to what it was at Intron 1, and it's all in that Intron 6. So if this is a character you'll like, you will definitely want to go into weekly bosses and get him after he rotates out of theater. Now, I do actually have some really good news on the Kezhou front, and it's that by going over to immersive theater in this version when Kezhou is coming out, they've actually made it easier easier to get these secret letters, so you don't have to clear all of the end game content to get the letters anymore. In the featured repertoire, which I don't have unlocked on this account, sorry guys, you actually get 4 secret letter clues for Kezhou instead of 1 on every 2 stars up to 10 stars. So overall, the rewards do remain the same. However, every single player can likely get more of them now and will likely be able to get them easier overall. Also, this theater benefits Lady Neefel, and I know a lot of people were waiting for that. So anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video or if you like Kezhou, let me know down in the comments below. I honestly think he's a really sick character, and it finally feels like we have a reason to like progress weapons. So I'm personally a really big fan. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time.